Imagine you've got a customer, right? They load up their online shopping cart with, say, $50,000 worth of merchandise.
That is a very good day for a merchant.
Right. They hit checkout.
Right.
But, and here's the kicker, they don't enter a credit card and they don't pay a single cent.
Yeah, the screen just flashes, great, your order is on the way.
Exactly. If you saw that happen on a normal e-commerce website, you would assume there was a massive glitch and, well, somebody was definitely getting fired.
Oh, absolutely. Total panic.
But in the hidden trillion-dollar world of B2B commerce like business-to-business wholesale, that exact scenario is just a regular Tuesday morning.
It's a completely different universe, honestly. I mean, you are no longer selling a single artisanal coffee mug to someone scrolling on their phone.
Right.
You are selling, 10,000 mugs to a regional distributor. And they have incredibly specific procurement demands, negotiated contracts, and net payment terms.
And for a long time, the software managing that universe has been, well, notoriously clunky.
Yeah.
Just awful to use.
Well, the worst.
But today, we're looking at how the most famous consumer-facing e-commerce platform in the world is trying to conquer that exact space.
Shopify.
Shopify. We are pulling from this incredibly comprehensive 16-minute read titled Shopify for B2B, Complete Wholesale Guide 2026.
It's a really thorough breakdown.
It really is. So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out exactly how Shopify is attempting to tackle wholesale.
Oh.
We're going to see if their highly touted native tools are actually worth the massive price tag, and most importantly, how you can decide what makes sense for your own business operations.
Yeah, that's the big question for a lot of merchants right now.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to really grasp what's happening here, we have to look at a fundamental shift in how the software actually views a customer.
Right, because it used to be just individuals, right?
Exactly. In traditional Shopify, the entire database is built around one core unit, an individual person with an email address. They arrive, they browse, they buy.
Standard retail stuff.
Right. But the biggest takeaway from this guide is a concept called the blended store, which, frankly, completely changes that underlying architecture.
I found myself really hooked on this idea while reading through the source. It feels a lot like a digital speakeasy.
A digital speakeasy? That's an interesting way to look at it. How do you mean?
Well, think about the experience from the outside. A regular retail shopper types in your website URL, and it looks like a standard, beautiful, direct-to-consumer site.
Sure, standard storefront.
Yeah. They see your fixed retail prices, maybe a banner for like free shipping on orders over $50. They add a t-shirt to their cart, and they check out.
Totally normal.
But when a wholesale buyer arrives at that exact same URL and logs in with their specific credentials, a hidden door essentially swings open.
I see what you're saying.
Suddenly, the website shapeshifts. They are seeing custom catalogs, entirely unique pricing tiers, and strict purchasing rules that the regular retail shopper has absolutely no idea even exist.
What's fascinating here is that Shopify is moving away from the old duct tape methods.
Duct tape methods. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because before this native integration, if a merchant wanted to sell wholesale on Shopify, they usually just treated the wholesale buyer like a regular consumer and handed them a fancy discount code.
Oh man, like just go to the website and type in wholesale 30 at checkout.
Exactly. Type in wholesale 30 to get 30% off. It was so messy. I mean, it completely ruined your analytics.
Because your system just thinks you're having a massive flash sale all the time.
Right. But now Shopify has re-architected the system to be account-based. So the core unit is no longer the individual profile, it's the company.
The company as its own standalone entity in the database.
Yes, exactly. A company account can have multiple different physical locations like warehouses, regional offices, retail branches.
All under one roof.
Yeah, and it can have multiple authorized buyers, meaning 3 different procurement managers can have their own distinct logins, but their purchases all roll up under the company's single umbrella.
That is so much cleaner.
It is. It even handles specific tax exemptions right at the company level.
I want to pause and speak directly to you for a second, the listener. If you ever had to manage inventory across 2 entirely different platforms, let's say you have one system running your public retail site and a totally separate portal, or worse, a giant messy spreadsheet for your wholesale orders, the operational nightmare of trying to keep those numbers synced.
Oh, it's terrifying.
You are constantly terrified of overselling inventory you don't actually have. This blended approach is designed specifically to cure that headache. You maintain one single pile of inventory, And the storefront just dynamically adapts based on who walks through that digital door.
But once that hidden door opens, the mechanics of how a transaction happens have to change entirely. I mean, selling to a corporate entity with an accounting department requires a lot more plumbing than selling a single item to a weekend shopper.
Yeah, the stakes are definitely higher, the volume is massive, and a flat 30% off coupon just isn't going to cut it anymore.
Not at all.
Let's look at the actual tools inside this speakeasy. The text outlines some really robust native features exclusive to Shopify Plus, starting with how pricing actually works at scale.
Right. So B2B pricing is notoriously complex, mainly because it's almost always based on relationships and volume.
Like who you know and how much you buy.
Exactly. With these native tools, you can create custom product selections and specific pricing for every single company. The guide note's a really great example of this.
Oh yeah, I remember this part.
Yeah, so company A might log in and see a catalog of 500 products at a flat 30% off retail, but company B might be a much larger partner for you.
So they get a better deal.
Right. They only see 300 curated products, but they get 40% off.
And company C might not get a percentage discount at all, right?
Right.
They might have a totally custom fixed price list that took like 3 months of boardroom meetings to negotiate.
Precisely. And the system just recognizes their login and dynamically loads those specific contract prices. No discount codes needed.
That's huge. And beyond pricing, there is the issue of volume control. This brings us to quantity rules. Because I really can't imagine a scenario where a wholesale buyer is allowed to order like 3 random t-shirts in mismatched sizes.
No, they aren't. And in the past, merchants had to use clunky third-party apps or write custom code just to stop people from checking out with the tiny orders.
Just to enforce a basic rule.
Right. But the native B2B tools let you enforce strict minimum order quantities, or MOQs, and it actually goes a step further into specific increments.
Case packs.
Yes, case packs. So you can set a rule that dictates the minimum order is 12 units, and from there the buyer can only order in increments of 6.
Okay, so 12, 18, 24.
Exactly. The software physically forces the buyer to add 12, 18, or 24 items to their cart. If they try to check out with, say, 15, the system blocks the transaction. It enforces your wholesale minimums effortlessly.
Okay, so the catalog is custom, the quantities are locked in. But I want to go back to that scenario I mentioned at the very beginning of the deep dive, the $50,000 cart that checks out for $0.
Ah, the net terms.
Yeah, the text dedicates a lot of space to net payment terms. Now, I understand that businesses expect to pay later, usually 15, 30, 60, or 90 days after receiving the goods.
That's standard practice, yeah.
Right. And the source says Shopify now natively supports these terms, tracking the due dates and sending automated email reminders. But I have to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, where's the friction?
Well, if I am a merchant and I let a massive buyer walk away with 50 grand in inventory on a net 90 term, someone is taking on a massive amount of financial risk.
Absolutely.
Is Shopify underwriting this? Like, are they acting like a bank and guaranteeing I get paid if that company suddenly goes bankrupt?
That is a critical question, and the guide provides a very stark reality check on this. The answer is absolutely not.
Wow, really?
The credit risk rests 100% on your shoulders as the merchant.
So the software is basically just acting as a very expensive calendar and email service for these invoices.
Effectively, yes. Shopify offers no credit scoring, they do no background checks on the buyers, and they offer 0 payment guarantees.
That is a lot of risk.
It is. When you offer a net 60 or net 90 term through this system, you are extending credit entirely based on your own internal judgment of that relationship. If they default, Shopify does not cover your loss.
Ouch.
Yeah. The text even advises that for high-value accounts, merchants should probably employ a third-party credit management service or require a partial deposit upfront.
A deposit makes a lot of sense, which actually bridges perfectly into the next major power tool mentioned in the source, draft orders. Because I imagine a lot of wholesale isn't actually happening via self-serve carts anyway.
No, it's really not. A massive chunk of B2B commerce still happens over the phone or through, frantic email chains with a sales rep.
Right, like, hey, we need these ASAP.
Exactly. A distributor will email your team saying, we need 500 units of the blue t-shirt sent to our Chicago warehouse by Tuesday.
So instead of telling that distributor to go log into the website and do it themselves, your sales staff can just act as the manual override.
Yes. They go into the admin dashboard and punch in a draft order on behalf of that company.
The beauty of the integration is that when the staff member creates that draft order, the system automatically pulls in that specific company's negotiated pricing, their case pack rules, and their net payment terms.
Which is huge because it completely removes the human error of a sales rep accidentally quoting the wrong price.
Ah, right. No more spreadsheet mistakes.
Exactly. And it is also the exact mechanism you use to mandate those partial deposits before releasing the inventory.
Okay, hearing all of this, the automated catalogs, the increment rules, the draft orders, pulling the right data, it sounds like a frictionless utopia for a sales team.
It's definitely a massive step up.
But building a frictionless utopia requires serious engineering, which means someone has to foot the bill. Let's look at the actual cost of turning this on, because, well, it is not cheap.
No, the financial reality of native B2B on Shopify is quite steep.
The numbers laid out in the text are honestly staggering. These native features are completely exclusive to Shopify Plus.
That's right.
And Shopify Plus costs an estimated $27,600 a year. Starts at $2,300 a month.
Yeah, it's a major investment.
That is a mortgage payment just for the software. So if I'm a business owner running a great D2C site and I want to just dip my toes into wholesale, but I don't have 30 grand sitting around, what are my options?
Well, the guide provides a very comprehensive look at the non-plus route. Because if you are on a Grow or Advanced Shopify plan, which are significantly cheaper, you can use third-party apps to piece together a functional B2B experience.
Right. The source lists several specific players in this app space. There's Wholesale Gorilla, which runs about $25 to $50 a month and gives you simple tiered pricing.
Yep, that's a popular one.
And B2B Wholesale Solution, which focuses heavily on enforcing those minimum order quantities we talked about. Holster is geared toward international, multi-currency wholesale, and SparkLayer can actually build out a full self-serve portal for your buyers.
So instead of paying $2,300 a month, you pay your standard Shopify subscription, maybe a few $100s, and then bolt on one of these apps for another $50.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If you go with the app route, you are essentially putting a slick B2B skin over a standard D2C engine.
That's a great way to conceptualize the underlying technology. It is literally a layer resting on top of the foundation.
And is way cheaper. The guide estimates a mid-tier advanced plan, plus the app fees will run you roughly $15,000 to $17,800 annually.
Which is significant saving.
Yeah, that is 10 grand cheaper than jumping to Plus. But because it's just a skin, I imagine the seams start to show pretty quickly.
Oh, the seams definitely show. Because these third-party apps do not have permission to modify Shopify's native checkout at the core platform level.
So they can't change the actual engine.
Right, so the pricing might not sync perfectly between the app interface and the final checkout calculation. You sometimes get weird rounding errors.
That sounds frustrating for accounting.
It is. Furthermore, those rich company accounts we talked about aren't deeply integrated into the core customer database. And if you want to offer those net payment terms, you have to use the app's separate invoicing workflow, completely isolated from your main Shopify dashboard.
So you lose the magic of the blended store. You're managing two systems again.
Exactly.
So the ultimate question becomes, when does the math actually make sense to upgrade? How do I justify jumping from a $400 a month setup to a $2,300 a month setup?
Well, the guide breaks down a highly specific ROI formula like a decision tree based strictly on your revenue.
Okay, lay it on me.
First rule, if you are doing under $100,000 a year in wholesale revenue, do not get whole. Plus, stick to the apps. The volume simply doesn't justify the infrastructure cost.
Keep the skin on the engine. Got it. Right, but there is a definitive tipping point. Once your wholesale revenue crosses the $500,000 mark, or definitely by the time it hits $800,000, the math flips entirely.
See, I'm trying to make that math work in my head. Paying 30 grand a year to manage 800 grand in revenue still feels like a massive chunk of margin to give up just for software.
It does, until you factor in the credit card processing fees.
Ah.
This is the hidden math of e-commerce that dictates everything. On the lower tier plans, your credit card processing rate is roughly 2.7% per transaction. But when you upgrade to Shopify Plus, that rate drops to 2.15%.
0.5%. I mean, that sounds like a rounding error.
To a consumer, sure, but let's run the actual numbers here. If you process $1 million in revenue, a 2.7% fee means you are paying $27,000 just to process payments.
Wow.
Drop that rate to 2.15%, and you are only paying $21,500. That is $5,500 in direct savings that immediately eats into the cost of the Plus subscription.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The volume makes up for it. And the text points out another massive hidden cost. Labor. like operational time.
The manual workarounds, they drain resources.
Right. The guide asks a brilliant question. If your team is spending 10 or more hours a month manually managing wholesale orders like hand typing custom invoices, tracking net 60 terms on a chaotic Excel spreadsheet, constantly generating new, unique discount codes for every single client, what is that human time actually worth?
Exactly. You have to put a dollar amount on that labor.
If you calculate the labor cost of managing those clunky workarounds, paying for the native automation of Shopify Plus literally becomes the cheaper operational choice.
It is the classic business dilemma. At a certain scale, paying with your wallet becomes vastly more efficient than paying with your time.
Well said. So let's assume a merchant hits that tipping point. They cross $500,000, they do the math on the credit card fees and labor, they bite the bullet, and they upgrade to Shopify Plus. Does it solve absolutely every single B2B problem? Have they arrived at the promised land?
The text gives a highly objective and very resounding no.
Huh. I always appreciate when a guide isn't just a glossy sales pitch.
Yeah.
So where are the blind spots? Where does Shopify B2B currently fall short when you compare it to the giant purpose-built legacy B2B platforms systems like Commerce or Magento B2B?
Well, the first major limitation is quoting. Currently, there is no native request for a quote or RFQ system.
Wait, negotiating is the entire foundation of wholesale? How is there no button for that?
It's a huge oversight right now. In a traditional legacy B2B platform, a buyer can build a massive cart of, say, 10,000 items and hit a button that essentially pings the merchant and says, hey, I'm not paying list price for this volume. Give me your best offer.
Right.
On Shopify, you can't do that natively. The workaround is really clunky. The buyer has to email your team, your staff creates a draft order with a custom discount, and then emails an invoice back.
That feels incredibly archaic for a system that costs $2,300 a month.
It really is.
What about the back end? Because if I'm a massive company doing millions in wholesale, I am definitely not tracking my global inventory or supply chain on a legal pad. I'm using a massive enterprise software system. Does Shopify play nice with those?
This is the second major blind spot, ERP integrations. An ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning System, think NetSuite, SAP, or Microsoft Dynamics, is the central nervous system for massive global companies. Plugging Shopify into one of these heavy-duty systems is not plug-and-play at all.
Why is it so difficult? Shouldn't software just be able to talk to other software at this point?
You'd think so, but it comes down to how their databases are structured. Remember at the beginning we talked about how Shopify's core architecture was built around the individual shopper?
Right, the person with the email address.
Exactly. Well, an ERP's architecture is built around the corporate entity and supply chain. They speak entirely different structural languages. Shopify provides the API access, but you need middleware translation software like Celigo or Boomi to bridge the gap.
And I'm guessing that translation software isn't free.
Not even close. The guide warns merchants to budget between $5,000 and $30,000 just for that implementation alone.
Wow, so that 30 grand a year for Shopify Plus just turned into 60 grand in year one.
Easily. And that doesn't even touch on EDI, or electronic data interchange, which is the third major limitation.
EDI. I've heard that acronym thrown around a lot in logistics. Why does it actually matter here?
Well, if you are selling to massive big box retailers like Target or Walmart, they will not manually email you purchase orders.
They're too big for that.
Right. They mandate EDI, which is essentially a standardized system where their corporate computers yell directly at your corporate computers to automate purchase orders and invoices without any human intervention.
It eliminates data entry errors at scale.
Exactly. But Shopify B2B does not have this capability out of the box.
So how do you fix it?
You have to lease extra third-party services like SPS Commerce or Cressel, which adds another $200 to $500 a month, plus the immense complexity of mapping the data between the systems.
Man, considering all these major blind spots, the lack of quoting, the incredibly expensive ERP translations, the missing EDI for big box retail, what is the ultimate verdict here? Who is this actually for?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source synthesizes it perfectly. Shopify B2B is an absolute powerhouse for a very specific type of merchant, a brand that is primarily direct-to-consumer and wants to aggressively scale up wholesale arm. For them, the ability to run everything from one single dashboard is unparalleled.
Ah, I see. They already have the retail engine touring, and they just want to open that hidden speakeasy door for bulk buyers without having to build a whole new building.
Exactly. But if you are a B2B first company, meaning your entire legacy business model is wholesale, you have highly complex procurement workflows, you require multi-level approval chains where a regional manager has to sign off on a local buyer's cart, and you have deep entrenched ERP needs, well, Shopify might not be ready to be your primary platform.
It simply isn't built for that level of legacy enterprise complexity yet.
Not yet, no.
So what does this all mean for you, listening right now? Let's distill the key takeaways from today's deep dive. If you're a D2C brand scaring past $500,000 in wholesale revenue, the Shopify Plus blended store is basically a magic bullet.
It really is.
It gives you incredible operational efficiency, merging your retail and wholesale into one seamless automated system, and the credit card savings will likely justify the price tag. But if you're smaller, if you're just dipping your toes into wholesale and making under $100,000 a year, do not bankrupt your business on enterprise software.
Stick to the apps.
Exactly. Slap an app like Wholesale Gorilla on your current plan, accept the slight clunkiness of the two systems, and just keep growing your sales.
The overarching theme of this entire guide is that B2B commerce is finally shedding its clunky, outdated reputation. It is aggressively starting to adopt the smooth, frictionless, consumer-grade technology that we all expect when we buy something on our phones.
The era of faxing a purchase order to a warehouse is mercifully coming to an end.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating thought to mull over. We've spent this time dissecting how successful Shopify has been at creating a blended store. A platform where the lines between an individual weekend shopper and a corporate wholesale buyer are completely erased.
Right. One system powering two totally different experiences.
But consider the massive generational shift happening in the workforce right now. As the next generation of digital natives, people who grew up buying groceries, cars, and vacations with one seamless tap on a smartphone, as they step into the roles of corporate procurement officers making million-dollar purchasing decisions, what does the future hold for B2B?
Oh, that's a profound point. They aren't going to have the patience for navigating a labyrinth of clunky legacy software just to order office supplies or inventory.
Precisely. This raises an important question. Will the traditional, rigid, legacy B2B portal completely die out within the next decade? Will it be replaced entirely by platforms that feel exactly like casually shopping on your favorite trendy consumer app on a Sunday afternoon?
It makes you wonder. Maybe in a few years, every massive corporate transaction will just feel like sneaking into a really well-designed digital speakeasy. You know the password, the custom menu loads instantly, and checking out $50,000 worth of inventory is just a single tap away. Something to think about. Until next time, keep learning.